For this project, I'm using a farrier's rasp. I got a bunch of these from a guy my grandpa knows. My grandpa has horses, and the guy comes and, of course, shoes them. And found out I was blacksmith, so he gave me a bunch of these old rasps that he just had lying around because once they get too dull for him, they're not really worth much. So he gave a bunch of them to me, and I decided kind of as a thank you, I'm going to forge him a Bowie knife out of one. I don't really have much of a plan. Besides, I'm just going to hammer this end into kind of a point for, like a Bowie knife. And then I'll probably hammer part of it out to make it thinner towards my edge. And hopefully that widens out a little bit because this is a bit thin. And then I'll thin it out and then make some sort of handle. I'll probably use like a laminated wood, probably like an oak or a hickory with some sort of guard. But I'll probably figure that out when I actually get to it. Rough forged, I'm gonna cut this back off so that way I have the length I want. Then I'm gonna go to my angle grinder and shape this better. This actually wasn't the shape I was going for, but like oftentimes when working with metal like this, it just kind of came out that way, and sometimes just kind of got to go with it, and you can make some really cool and unique stuff that way. And sometimes you just make some really weird stuff. I've done both. Now that I have everything ground to the shape, I'm going to drill a couple of holes for my handle and put a larger one here because I'm going to put kind of a pommel piece here. I don't know quite how I'm going to attach it, but it's going to be larger. Probably I'll just take a large thing, hammer it out, and then grind it flat. Instead of using nails like I normally do, I have this brass rod, and that's going to hold my handle in place. I've never done this before, so hopefully it goes well. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I got my holes drilled, and before I go heat treat it, I'm gonna make the guard out of this 3/16" steel. It's just a scrap piece. I'm gonna make a pommel out of the end of this railroad spike. This, I'm probably just gonna cut the shape and then cut a slot out of it to fit. This, I'm gonna forge this the kind of shape I want, and I'm gonna cut it off and then cut a slot in it that'll fit along here, and then I'll pin that into place. Okay, so I have this rough forged to shape. It's way longer, so I'm gonna have to grind it down a little bit. But I have it marked so where it fits on there. And as you see with the guard, it sticks out a lot, so I'm gonna shorten it quite a bit. But anyway, so I'm gonna cut it off here, cut a slit down the middle of it, heat it up, and then open that up, and then forge it around the handle. Hopefully that goes according to plan. Okay, so I trimmed this down a little bit, so that way it's not a huge point. I made it where it's just slightly shorter than this. I think aesthetically it looks a little better, and I kind of like that it just has this short, it's kind of, I don't know, side cut. I don't know how to describe it, but anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole through that so I can pin it in place. Then I'm going to, I'll probably clean this up. I probably film that because it'll just be taking the sander to it and polishing it out a little bit to make it look a little more like this. Just still clean, but, or mostly clean with a little bit of roughness on it. And I'm gonna have that kind of look the same. And most of that's when I put a pin through it. I can just sand it smooth and don't have to worry about having a pin obviously sitting there. Damn, dang, it's really awkward to say. But then once I get that drilled, I'm gonna throw this in the forge, normalize and heat treat it. And once I get that done, I'm gonna make my handle scales. Now that I have everything cleaned up, I have these two wooden pieces I'm gonna use as scales. This is just oak, just in thin scrap pieces. This is probably 3/16 quarter thick. I don't know the exact measurements. Basically, I made them to the same thickness of my kind of guard here. Already drilled holes. So what I'm gonna do now is put epoxy on both sides of my tang, and then I'm gonna put a little bit in here as well. Mount these on both sides and then put a brass pin through it. And, well, that's finished. I forgot to film the making of the handle, but basically after I quit filming, I just sanded these to whether slightly rounded, then stained and linseed oiled them. Pretty basic stuff, nothing fancy. And the blade, I just took sandpaper and sharpened it to where now it's really sharp. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I don't know, maybe learned how to make a Bowie knife. I don't know, just, yeah. I really need to find a way to end these. These are just weird. I ramble and never really say anything. Yeah.